you are able to do exceedingly abundantly, far above all I could ask or think, believe. Yes, I believe. You say,
I believe that you are able to do exceedingly abundantly, far above all I could ask or think.
Excited because the Step Out TV shows are back live on T2I TV. And for those who don't know, Step Out is a series of interviews and motivational segments designed to bring the best out of you and your business. Therefore, we have the following TV programs. Our first TV program, which is our flagship program, dubbed Step Out with Oscar Bimpong, is designed to interview consultants, experts, talented people, and those doing exceptionally well in their communities. The second one is Step Out SME Focus. This is where we interview business owners and showcase their products and services. The third one is Step Out Youth Impact Zone. This is where we interview young people succeeding against all odds to serve as an inspiration to other young people. And the last one is Step Out Authors Corner. And this is where we interview authors to share what their book is about to the world. Join us every week at 7 p.m. GMT. Like T2I TV on Facebook and subscribe to the YouTube channel. To advertise or for further information, do WhatsApp +44 759 1152 983 or +233 55 580 3924 or email info@traintoinspire.com. T2I TV. We engage, educate, enlighten, and empower.
Welcome to another exciting edition of the Step Out Youth Impact Zone. And this is where we interview young people that are changing the narrative on the continent of Africa. And trust me, the Step Out Youth Impact Zone is gathering momentum in terms of shaping the minds of the young people on the continent and also changing the narrative. And trust me, tonight is no exception. I've got a young man coming all the way from Liberia to come on the show. But before I bring him on board, I am going to talk about some of the sponsors for this program. Now, this program is being sponsored by Train to Inspire Consultancy. That is your business training and consulting firm. That is for all your business training needs. Contact Train to Inspire Consultancy. Train to Inspire Consultancy also works with colleges, universities, and tertiary institutions in terms of their personal development and also helping to bridge the gap between academia and the world. Then also ALS Global Shipping and Logistics, your trusted import and export company based in Accra. ALS says, if you are stranded at the port, call us and we will sort you out. Also ZPay Ghana Limited, your remittance and mobile money company based in Ghana. They just launched their ZPay mobile money USSD code, which is *270#. Just dial on your phone to register for ZPay mobile money. Also, lastly, Wheels for Sure. That is your car leasing for every credit. Wheels for Sure says it doesn't matter your credit. You can walk out of the garage with a car of your choice. During COVID-19, where a lot of people don't really want to take public transport and you don't have a very good credit, call Wheels for Sure and they will sort you out. When you call them, quote T2I 2020. And if you want to contact any of our sponsors, the numbers are scrolling on the screen. Take them and contact them. And I always say that if you contact them, and you tell them that you got the number from us, you are more likely to get a very good deal. Also, if you want to sponsor any of these shows, take the number for T2I TV UK or Train to Inspire Consultancy and talk to us. As a business consultancy firm, we will help you, whether it's a personal brand or a business, we will help you to grow. I always say this, a lot of businesses cannot go to mainstream media to advertise. But when you come with us, we are going to help you to really grow your business. Now, who do I have on a hot seat? This is a young man working so hard on the continent of Africa, making a difference in his own small way, uniting the youth and causing a paradigm shift on the continent. These are the young people that when I hear of them, it gives me hope for the continent. We believe that it is not all is not lost on the continent because of people like the person that I'm going to interview. They are changing the narrative against all odds. And that is what we need on the continent. There are so many young people that are doing so well on the continent of Africa, but they don't even have the platform to come and share their views, the platform for them to come and share knowledge, the platform for them to really come and really speak to other young people so that we can grow together as a continent. I always say that this platform is for Africa, run by Africans. We are giving this platform for Africans to share their stories, both in Africa and in diaspora. Why? Because it is about time we tell our stories in our own words. And who do I have on the hot seat? This man is a youth advocate and a peace commentator, all the way from Liberia. And he is in the person of Brezhnev David Paasewe. Please welcome to Step Out Youth Impact Zone, and you are live on T2I TV UK.
Well, thank you so very much, Oscar. I must admit, I'm so excited to be a hoster on this platform. I do appreciate the level of work you are doing on the continent of Africa and also in Europe, the UK, and just name it. I'm very pleased to share my perspective on the topic you've selected for us to discuss. Thank you.
Thank you very much. And I'm also happy that upon all your busy schedule, you have really decided to come on the show to really help inspire the young people on the continent of Africa.
Yeah, I
Now,
mean, I think this is more like a call to duty. I can not be seen as a youth leader without, accepting your invitation and also speaking on behalf of the young people of our country. So I'm very proud that I'm doing this thing, and don't mention I can stay here for the next 2 to 3 hours to discussing youth related issues. Thank you.
wow, 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 wow. Yes. And before I even go on to our topic, if anybody is watching you, who is David Paasewe in your own words?
Well, the name Brezhnev David Paasewe is more like a hustle name in our country. He's formerly the vice president of all the youth and student groupings in our country. I serve as the activity and communication coordinators at one of USAID project called Legit, and I've also worked with youth and student groupings across my country. On the continent of Africa, I serve as an associate member of a group called West Africa Youth Organization, and I once upon a time contested for the deputy executive chairperson position at the African Youth Commission. Currently, I'm in the private sector. I work with the Catholic Relief Services as their program manager for peace building, and I'm managing two of USAID projects. One is called the Connect for Peace, and the Connect for Peace project is more like trying to strengthen vertical and horizontal social cohesion in divided communities. And I'm also working on another project called United for Progress. This project is designed to reducing electoral violence ahead of our December 2020 senatorial election, and also it helps to working with marginalized youth group to see how best we can make them much more peace ambassador ahead of the December 2020 election. So Prashna is more like a youth advocate. He's somebody who has been in the youth arena for a very long time, but now he has different cap on. He's trying to see how best he contribute to the peace process of our country to ensuring that we sustain the peace that we now enjoy in Liberia under our president, Dr. George Manuia.
Wow, wow. The man's hands is full already. And I think we really appreciate your work on the continent. Continue to do it. But our topic for today, we just concluded that we're going to discuss the role of the youth during elections to change the narrative in Africa. Now, my first question to you is, why do we find it so difficult to have a violence-free elections on the continent of Africa?
Well, I think it is appalling to hear us still asking this question on grounds that Africa is the second most populated continent in the world, and 19 of the world's youngest countries you find in Africa, according to the World Economic Forum statistics. And if you look at what is happening in our on the continent, you understand that two-thirds of our population are actually under the age of 35. So if you see how youth-driven our continent is, then it brings us to asking this question: why is it that we still see election violence? Why is it people are still, finding it difficult to actually having a violence-free election? There are a few things I think are actually interplaying. I would now want to consider shifting blame on a specific generation, to saying the older generation must have been the cause, to seeing us still having difficulty in having a violent-free election. I also do not want to say the younger generation is the reason why we still see countries struggling of having a violent, tense electoral process. But I think there are a few things that are interplaying that we need to take into consideration. One of the trickles of electoral violence that we see happening on the continent has to do with voters allowing politicians to use them as political stooges so that they can allow the selfish end to be accomplished. You cannot say you are trying to subscribe to the tenets of democracy and you do not want to create a level playing field for people to exercise their political franchise. You cannot say because you are a member of a particular political party, so because of this, you want this party to win at all costs. So because of that reason, you tend to, cause electoral violence. You tend to get involved into things that might undermine the integrity of the electoral system in our country. One of the things that I strongly believe must have been the weak reason factor that make Africa, countries in Africa to always experience violence during the electoral process, the fact that the mindset of the electors have not grown to that level where they will stop being gullible to politicians. You will understand that the reason why the electors allow politicians to use them, it is because of the level of unemployment rate we see amongst the youth.
Mhm.
So because of this reason, you will see there are a couple of things that might interplay to making sure youth get involved into violent act, and some of the things they might get involved into could be the art of intimidating their peers, to making sure that the peers get involved into understanding their own political agenda. So in case the person tend to say no to their political agenda, then obviously you see people getting a lockerhead with one another. And lastly to this question, I believe the reason why we still find difficulty or still see difficulty in ensuring a violent free election, it is because those that are the helm of the electoral body, they tend to not necessarily create a level playing field for political parties, for independent candidates to freely express their political agenda and to freely interact with the electors. You will see at times the ruling government will want to maybe police a particular situation if the government feel threatened on the part of those who are trying to oppose them. So if we really want to see a kind of a open space to allow a violent-free election, we need to look at our election laws. We need to see how best we can be more or less constructive enough to come up with laws that will create a platform where everybody will equally participate in the electoral process. We also need to see how best we put some regulation over campaign finance activities because these are all triggers that helps to fuse in confusion during electoral processes. So if you see the electoral body are regulating the campaign activities through laws and at the same time trying to monitor the expenditure on how political parties or independent candidates are actually spending their campaign finances to a larger extent. I think it helps to promote level playing field and helps to helps to curtail whatsoever our electoral tension that may come up and that might lead to violence.
Yeah, all right. Yeah, if you're watching us for the first time, we want to encourage you to really share this for somebody to enjoy this discussion as well. This is a discussion for Africans. This is a discussion about our continent, and we will encourage you to share this. And also like our page on Facebook and subscribe to our YouTube channel. Now, you made mention of employment leading to election violence. Now, how can we reduce unemployment on a continent? And do you think when unemployment is reduced, it is going to have an impact on elections in terms of election violence?
I do not want to say that on grounds that the act of violence has a direct relationship with the mindset of the people you are interacting with. So it brings us to the question: how do we now uh, disabuse the mindset of the people that are electing public officials? How do we kind of deconstruct the mindset of the electorate so that they can won't denounce the acts of violence? Because obviously electoral violence, you will obviously know that electoral violence leads to intimidation. It is the act of intimidation from the side of the candidates and from the side of the voters. It's the act of physical harassment and all of these things. But when the electors are to a larger extent in power and they have these implorable opportunities to making sure that they make independent decision. They are kind of make decision based on the issue that has been discussed and not necessarily based on party lines, not necessarily based on financial inducement, not necessarily based on acted nouns. To a larger extent, I think would be rewriting the narratives in Africa when it comes to promoting electoral free, violent free elections, and to making sure that we all have a kind of a good sense of how we can nurture the democracy that we see playing in our various countries and on the continent of Africa.
You made mention of mindset, and I think mindset is the success of the continent of Africa. Now, if the youth believe in election violence, if the youth believe in that, if this is the party I support, nobody can change my mind, meaning that we don't even vote on policies, on character, on manifesto, but we vote based on our affiliation. Now, do you think this is going to lead to anything positive on the continent in terms of changing the narrative when it comes to, for example, election violence?
I really do not think that is going to happen. Let's take, for example, what is happening in Guinea. You understand that majority of the voters in Guinea are voting. It is alleged that they are voting based on tribal lines. So if you are voting on tribal lines and not necessarily voting on the issue, on policy issues, then it becomes a problem. Then it means that we are not going anywhere as a country. So I strongly believe when it comes to the mindset, we need to see how best we can encourage our voters, most especially the youthful population. We can encourage our youth to see how best they engage politicians, they engage peer duty bearers in a more constructive manner so that they can be able to have some social corporate agreement. That is to say, how do you, as a political party or a politician, intend to manage the affairs of our country? If the mindset of our youth are directed towards that direction, where they can constructively engage their leaders, where they can be able to discuss the issue for of political line, for of ethnic backgrounds, for of religious line, I think to a larger extent, we will be able to see a mature leadership coming out of the various African countries. We'll be able to see people articulating the issues so that it, at the end of the day, benefits the overall population of the country. Let's take, for example, what is happening in America. You understand that American election is more around the policy, around the issues. Right now, people in America are voting based on two key things. They want to see the candidates' approach to addressing the issue of COVID-19. They also want to see the candidates' approach to reducing gun violence. How can we now say in, for example, in Liberia, how can we identify issues that the voting populations can be able to say based upon this and based upon the party manifesto, we can vote in the direction. We cannot necessarily vote based on our affiliation with a particular political party. So I think the mindset is about how do we prune, how do we mold the minds of the electorates, most especially the youthful population, to making sure that they change the narrative of now voting based on issues and not necessarily voting based on party affiliation, voting based on maybe tribal lines or religious affiliation. I will tell you this much. When it comes to the politics in Africa, when it comes to how African leaders use the youthful population to align themselves to pushing for their selfish agenda, they always use financial inducement. They always get involved into giving financial inducement. They always try to even bring about a political split amongst the youth and student groupings. So if we are sensitive to the strategies of the politicians of yesterday, I can assure you to a larger extent, we will not be writing a new history to telling our African leaders gone are the days of us allowing you to maybe use your gullibility tactics to make you to vote in your line. We should now start thinking on how can we discuss the issues that are affecting the youthful population, discussing the issues that are affecting the older generation, discussing the issues that are affecting the students. And how do we go about doing that? We need to make politicians or people in authority to be accountable to us. The only way you can do that by having the right mindset is by engaging politicians constructively so that you can come up with manifesto that would document issues that should be addressed within a specific time frame. If it does not, if the politicians are not addressing these things in a specific time frame, you cannot use that manifesto as an advocacy tool to addressing your concern and to making sure you advocate for policy change, for institutional reform, and to making sure you call to book politicians because the mindset is very critical. We all now need to bend our minds towards the direction of our dreams. What is our dream for our individual countries? What are those things we have internalized? How do we now make sure we become much more better by ensuring that we vote right and we ensure that we demand transparency and accountability in the governing processes of our country? So I'm actually speaking from that background, and I think this is something where African youth are lacking behind on. We've not changed our mindset evident with the fact that you see what is happening in Guinea. We've not changed our mindset. You see what there's incident of electoral violence that is actually springing out in Africa. And I mean, who knows? By December, we might be experiencing same in Liberia because as we speak now, there are too many electoral tension we are seeing around town. We're seeing the ruling establishment is actually going against the opposition. We're seeing the opposition, on the other hand, are trying to tear down the ruling establishment, a dream and aspiration for the country. And this is not offering well for the youthful population of our country. We need to do all that we can to making sure we put ourselves in a more right frame of mind to demanding accountability from the public official, to ensuring a politician who wants to manage the affairs of our country actually understand the plight of the people through a more constructive and peaceful manner. Yeah.
Do you think we are a continent that is according to the African Union Commission, more than 65% of African population are made up of the youth? Now, do you think this youthful population are ready to change the narrative on the continent by doing the right thing? Because with the numbers we have from the youth, they have got the power to change through voting and by doing the right thing. But it doesn't seem that they are using that power of numbers to change the narrative. How can we really cause them to be on a path where their numbers is going to influence elections rather than them taking bribes from politicians and struggle for 4 or 5 years? How can we change that narrative?
I think one of the reasons why you see the youthful population of Africa are not really utilizing the power they have in their hands to changing the narrative on the continent. One of the reasons why you see this happening is because they've agreed to be used by the older politicians. They've agreed to be used by people in authority so that they can allow their selfish aims to be accomplished. I tell you this much: in Africa, you will see the youthful population disagreeing to a particular cause because the older generation have brought in some draconian approach to dividing the youth. And if the youth are divided because Mr. X feel comfortable associating himself with a particular political godfather, he will not necessarily want to project the agenda of the youth. So you will want to be used by that politician to even going against the youthful population. So if that is happening, if that is the case in Africa, you will see that the power that we have, we will not utilize it to a greater extent. We'll definitely just sit upon and allow people to use us over and over and again. And at the end of the day, their selfish aim will be accomplished. So the youth of Africa, we have our own problems. So we can reach to the stage or to the point of agreeing to champion a particular cause, to say no to politicians who will continuously want to use us so that their selfish aims can be accomplished. I can assure you we have a power in our hand and we do nothing. Almost like you kill a cow or you kill a lion, and at the end of the day, you only take the tail of the lion, the body is taken away from you and is being used by the politician. So that's a very serious and appalling situation that African youth should be able to consider and see how best we can now change the mindset to constructively engage in our politician and to agreeing to work together as a team and coming off a fixed agenda that we can all agree to champion as a team.
Now, a young population being led by old people, do you think this marriage is going to work? That is the union between the old and the young. Do you think this is going to work?
No, I mean, for me, I really do not subscribe to this, the old versus the youth, because I believe in our African adage that says you cannot plot the new map without sitting on the old map. But equally so, I believe if you are trying to plant the new map, you should have a new mindset in planting this new map. So we need to as African youth see how best we can constructively engage the older generation, learn from them, not necessarily learning the corrupt tactics, not necessarily allowing them to maybe buff us or with the bad governance tactics, but instead by learning those basic governance tricks or basic governance principles that have over time governed our society. We can build upon what they have done to making sure we help make better the society that we live in now. But to saying that because I'm a youth and I find myself in this youthful quadrant, so I should not necessarily, consider the older generation ideas and so forth. No, I don't want to subscribe to that. But I strongly believe we can work as a team. We can see how best we can foster a common front, learn from them the positives, making them to understand it is because of the bad governance, it is because of their bad policy advices and things. That's why we are at this level. But this is how we want to champion our cause to making sure we project a new Africa, we project a new society that we all can live in. Our children to come can be able to benefit the demographic dividend of our society. Yeah.
But don't you think, for example, we are in a technological era where economies are being driven by technology, but these same leaders, some of them don't even know how to probably use the computer. Do you think this is working well for us? Because, for example, the Guinea president, who is standing for the third time, is over 80 years old. Do you think this person even knows how to use computer? Do we need this man to lead us? Do you need the young people to align to this man? Do you even think this man even understand what is been happening in the world today in terms of technology, in terms of new systems in place, in terms of how we can drive our world using technology? Do you think they have a clue?
No, I mean, I strongly believe when it comes to technology, and just by you giving this example of the Guinean president who is 82 years, you will see that there's a problem in Africa. There's a need for us to see how best we help the older generation to constructive. We engage the older generation so that they can constructively leave the stage for some of us who are technologically informed and inclined to move in this continent forward. But when it comes to how I think the technological world to a larger extent helps to improve the living condition of the people and how to a larger extent it affects the governing system of the older that has been managed by the older generation who really don't have any clue as to how they can manage this thing. I think there where the issue of us applying the win-win approach so that the older generation can be able to bring us in, that we can be able to utilize the skills we've acquired over time in the technological world to help in it. But again, do they have that a free mindset to align the youthful population to take that stand so that they can be able to help their government? No, I don't think so. Are they willing to create a space where people can freely exercise the God-given talent so that at least they can be able to make better the society? No, the older generation don't have that. So one of the things I think we can do is to see how best we use that as an indicator to making them retire so that at least some of us can take the stage who are technologically inclined to making sure that we have project the African countries in a more better manner. But sincerely speaking, I really do not think it is a good thing on the continent. I really do not think there's a need for us to encourage those who stay in power who does not understand anything about the technological world to still be in public offices. In my country, I can tell you this much. We still see public official who does not know how to use typewriter holding lucrative government position. And this is appalling. But when you try to lace them, I mean to bring in a young person to help, beef up their strength and to train them on how to using the computer, how to use maybe a printer or projector, they feel overly zealous. They want to show that egoistic tendency of not wanting to be seen as somebody who does not have any sense of that. But again, how do we not narrow that gap? How do we change the way they view us to making sure they accommodate our system and allow to improve on the governance system of our country?
There is work to be done, isn't it?
Sufficient work, and with the collective effort of the older generation, the younger generation, I'm sure we can be able to bridge that gap, and we can be able to have a kind of a good approach to ensuring that the governance system of our society become much more better, so that people that are living at the bottom of the success ladder can be able to feel the impact of what their government is doing. Because someone said, all of what we see happening, bringing in the older folks to actually manage the affairs of the country because of the past experience and things. If we do not consider the youthful generation assisting them and learning from them, I can assure you we have a continent wherein the youthful generation themselves will be struggling to finding the solution to the problems that Africa now has.
Now, do you think the youth participating enough in governance can help change the narrative?
Yeah. To a larger extent, if a government create a level playing field to encouraging a youngster, the youth population to, you know, come in the governance and entrusting them with integral offices and to make it then get policy making roles in the governance structure. I think to a larger extent, you will see that fresh ideas will be coming from the youthful population, and you will see that things that have been happening yesteryears will now start changing. The issue of corruption will be minimized. People now will be able to see how transparent the society is, and will be able to at least think about being developmentally prudent to see how best they can inform future projections, so that at least our continent can be a very, very good and organized continent. But if you just allow the older generation to take the stage and to, running quote unquote the affairs of the country all by themselves, and not necessarily allowing the young stock to join them in this bandwagon of managing the country, I can assure you it's going to be a problem for us to change the narratives in Africa. So therefore, I think it's a win-win approach to align the young people working with the older generation so that they can be able to learn from the older generation and at the same time inform the older generation as to how they should improve in the governance structure of our society and what are some of the contemporary things that need to be done to making sure that we move ahead as a nation.
Now, don't you think the younger people getting into governance is an expensive venture when it comes to Africa? And that is why it leads to a lot of corruption. Because I read an article where it is like for every African MP, they gave a list of some countries, Nigeria, Ghana, and certain countries. By the time they become MP, they have almost spent an average of about $70,000 to $80,000. And when they come to power, they need to get that money back. And that is the first step in relation to corruption. Now, do you think the young people have got this money? And even if they have it, when they get to power, they need to get this money back. So do you think the young people, don't they have a big hurdle to cross when they want to get into governance, and this really leads to corruption?
No, I mean, I think it is not only those who are vying for elected offices, but I tell you this, what is happening in other African countries? Young people are entrusted with executive position in government, appointed position in government. And whenever they, as soon as they enter the government office, the first thing that click to mind is, how do I build my house within 1 month? How do I buy the latest vehicle that I can use to plow the street of my capital? How do I maybe maintain my social status to having too many concubines, to having this luxurious life? So while it's true they did not go through that process of maybe spending more money to be elected, but instead they were appointed by the government to serve the people as a young person, you will see that they are still involved into corruption. So I think that brings us to the mindset that I earlier spoke of. So it's not about young men trying to promote the issue of state capture or trying to promote the issue of allowing one political godfather to sponsoring his or her election, and at the end of the day, he or she may want to maybe sign shitty deals, maybe try to making sure that they steal money intended for the ordinary people. So because of that, I want to pay back. For me, I think um, young people need to be very careful and looking at how things are happening now on the continent. If we do not put aside our self-greed, if we do not put aside our self-interest, but instead agree, if we do not reach to that point of identifying our need to service and not necessarily using the platform to be corrupt. I can assure you over time, we'll still see new breed of young people getting in government. And at the end of the day, you still see the impoverished people complaining about not necessarily getting the basic social services because one person is taking the money that is intended for the general population. So I don't want to tell you, I don't want to say that it is only elected official that you will see hands in the cookies jar. You will also see appointed officials, those who are actually involved into, I mean, who are actually appointed into government offices. They may want to live a luxurious life, so they would definitely want to use any means of getting money where at the end of the day, the poor will suffer and our country will not move forward. Yeah.
Do you think the younger generation, do you think they can do better than the older generation looking at what is happening now?
I think if the younger generation have a unique mindset, if the younger generation is not going to public public office because he wants or she wants to get rich overnight, if they have a clear mindset of serving the people, if they have a clear mindset of providing quality services to the people that they serve, to a larger extent, I think they will do better than the older generation.
But
But if they are going back,
do you think you are using if, but do you think they have got a clear mindset now?
I really don't think so. And this is why the likes of you and other motivational speakers on the continent of Africa needs to see how best we can work with the youthful population of our continent to making sure that people who wants to take up public offices or want to get into the public leadership, they need to now start to identify the basic leadership trait that can be used to influencing decision making, that can be used to benefiting the lives of the people. You cannot say, "Oh, you're enjoying a government office," and we try to measure the sources of the government. You see something else. You see something. I mean, you see the negative vices coming up. So for me, I strongly believe young people can do better than the older generation only if they allow their mindset to be different to that of what we see happening on the continent of Africa. One is we need to strongly abuse the art of corruption. We need to now start naming and shaming those that are involved into the acts of corruption. We need to now be very transparent enough to see how best people that are out there watching the youthful generation can appreciate the level of openness we are bringing to the political discourse, we are bringing to the national leadership, so that at the end of the day, everybody benefit and not necessarily one group of people benefiting from the national cake.
I think you said a bit on corruption, but I really want us to reiterate it further because I believe that corruption is our bane. Corruption is what has destroyed the continent. The greed to have what belongs to a community, one person takes it all. And I believe that if this can be stopped in a way, we are going to really get the development that we want. Because it's not that we are poor, it's just that we don't manage our resources well. And resources are just being given to one person when it is meant for the whole community. How can we stamp authority on corruption to make sure that corruption is reduced to its barest minimum?
I think one thing we need to do is to see how best we can uh, be much more aware of what is happening in our government, be much more aware of what is happening in our communities, our district, and we need to be more like intentional this time around to taking action. The only way we can now start reducing corruption in the public space is where we demand accountability from our public officials. How do you go about demanding accountability? You go about doing that by firstly being aware of what is happening, be aware of what is to happen, and see how best you can now engage your public official constructively. You can checkmate them through a more robust manner that they will not corrupt money intended for the larger constituents or the larger populace. So for me, I think one of the things we can do is to making sure we build a social accountability approach in the mindset of the people, try to enhance their civic competences so that they can be able to look in the face of those that corrupt and name and shame them and not necessarily glorifying them because at the end of the day, the same corrupt will want to go back to the people who are destitute and give them money in kind to say, oh, I'm a humanitarian. I want to build this thing. I want you to do this thing in my name. But again, if you're not aware of what is happening, how do you demand accountability? If you do not have a conscious mindset, how do you not engage people to making sure that you move on to demanding open society and to demanding a kind of a society that create the flow for everybody to freely participate in the decision-making processes of your country?
Do you think there is any future for Africa?
Yes, the future of Africa it is actually it is rested on the shoulders of conscious-minded men and women on the continent. And I think the army of the youthful army that we are trying to build that is very conscious enough to the issues in on the continent. They are very conscious enough to the situation that are happening in our political sphere. They're very conscious enough to realizing what is actually affecting the fabric of our society. I think to a larger extent, we'll be able to make a mark. You see, Albert Einstein said, your imagination is everything. It is the preview to life's coming extraction. So the fact that it's the preview to life coming attraction, how do we not attract that future that we want to see ourselves living in? We can attract that by working to changing our mindset. We can attract that by saying no to politicians who want to use our state resources for its own selfish. We can attract that by denouncing the act of violence, by saying no to intimidation, to physical harassment, the issue of assault on journalists. These are things that when we start to stand against, it helps to propel our future that we want to see with African nations living. But if we say no to those things and don't constructively engage duty bearers, I can assure you we will be like the same old wine in a very new bottle, and the Western world will over time just continue to laugh at us and obviously say we really don't know what we are doing. So to identify the future we need in Africa, we need to first assess ourselves. We need to try hard to see how best we can now start naming and shaming politicians who are always in the constant habit of holding us down, suppressing our future, all because of their selfish political aim. We need to do away with party politics and now start discussing the issue policy that can better the lives of the people in our society. And we equally so need to see how best we can improve the infrastructures of our society. That's the educational system, that is the healthcare system, to making sure our generation is not only larger inside, but the generation should be educated, they should be healthy, and they should have a sound mind to running the affairs of our country.
Now, briefly, do you think the continent has got independence or we are still colonized?
I think we are not independent. We are squarely dependent on donor aids. We are dependent on our colonial power, and the only way we can change this narrative is by us seeing how best we can utilize the agriculture sector of the continent. Because if you take, for example, or look at the western side, the western part of Africa, you see that we are blessed with a soil that we can feed even the world 10 to 100 years to come. But it is because we are so dependent on donor aids, we are dependent on foreign governments to a larger extent. We do not have any, you know, concrete independent mind to standing against those who are feeding us. So we need to see how best we take that into consideration to making Africa a great continent, so that those who are coming to us to take all of our natural resources to their country can now start, coming to us to work for us and to see how best we can all build this continent called Africa.
Is it too late?
Well, I think it is not late. It's about us having the mindset of doing this. It's about us initiating a revolution that people will believe in, that people will want to sacrifice, that people will want to contribute their expertise so that we can all now start to say no. I mean, we need to now start coming back to Africa and seeing how best we can agree promoting our African culture. Look, I tell you this. For the past 12 months, I've now worn a European suit, like a coat suit. I'm not saying it's a bad thing to wear a coat suit. I'm always in my Africa. This is to actually project my Africanness, to make people understand that no matter what, I'm an African. I'm proud to be an African, and I'm in the vanguard of projecting an Africa that prosper, an Africa that will create space for mothers that are struggling to be much more independent, have their livelihood going on, and making sure that school systems are very improved, that our kids can be able to learn and move forward. So I think that there's a light at the end of the tunnel.
Wow. Yes, there's been some few comments here. Let me read some comments and we will take it from there. I have